John Harris stood at the large window of the Galactic Council chamber. His eyes moved across the stars that shone in the darkness of space. For 20 years he had served as Earth's ambassador to this body of alien species. For 20 years he had asked, begged, and argued for humans to be given the same rights as other members. Today would be his last attempt. The chamber behind him filled with representatives from over 200 worlds. Some had skin that glowed. Others floated on clouds of gas. A few were just points of light in special containers. All of them were older species than humans. All of them looked down on Earth as the new, primitive addition to the galactic community. John turned as the council leader. A tall blue alien named Ziv called the meeting to order. John's assistant, Peter Martinez, handed him a datapad with his speaking notes. "This is our last chance," Peter whispered. "Admiral Clark says she can't hold back the fleet much longer. People back home are angry." John nodded. He knew the situation well. 3 Earth colonies had been attacked by the Zilarian Empire in the past month. The Council had done nothing but talk. People were dying while these ancient species debated proper procedure. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Harris of Earth," Ziv announced, his voice echoing in the large chamber. John walked to the center of the room. He could feel the eyes of every species on him, some with pity, some with boredom, some with hidden hate. "Members of the Galactic Council," John began. "For 50 years, since humanity first made contact with your worlds, we have followed your rules. We have shown respect for your traditions. We have asked only to be treated as equals." He paused, looking at the Zilarian representative. The large reptilian alien showed no emotion. 3 human colonies have been attacked. Thousands have died. We brought evidence to this council. We followed your procedures for filing complaints. And what has been done? Nothing, murmurs spread through the chamber. John raised his voice. Earth has been patient. We have been diplomatic. We have tried to work within your system. But a system that allows the strong to hurt the weak without consequence is not a system worth saving. The Zilarian representative stood. The Earth colonies were in disputed territory. If humans do not understand proper galactic maps, that is not our concern. John's hands tightened on the speaking podium. Those colonies were recognized by this council 15 years ago. We have the records, you know this? Ziv raised a hand for quiet. The matter of border disputes must be handled through the proper committee. As Ambassador Harris knows, the Border Committee meets once every 5 years. The next meeting is in 2 years. John took a deep breath. This was the moment. The path of human history would change today. Earth will not wait 2 years for your committees while our people die, he said. His voice was quiet, but every being in the room could hear him. We came to you as friends. We tried to join your community. But you have shown us that this council exists only to protect the powerful and keep the rest of us in our place. He touched his communicator. Admiral Clark, this is Ambassador Harris. Implement Protocol Omega. The council chamber erupted in noise. Ziv banged his ceremonial staff for order. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. What is Protocol Omega? John Harris removed his ambassador's pin and placed it on the podium. As of this moment, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. We will protect our colonies ourselves. We will make our own alliances. And we will remember who stood by and did nothing while our people were killed. The human delegation stood as one and began walking toward the exit. The chamber was in chaos. Some representatives were shouting. Others were already sending urgent messages to their homeworlds. The Centauri representative, a human-like alien with silver skin, hurried to catch John before he left. Ambassador Harris, please reconsider. This is not the way. The council has stood for 10,000 years. John stopped. Perhaps that's the problem. It has not changed in 10,000 years. But the galaxy has. Tell your government to contact Earth directly if they wish to maintain relations. The rest of you, he looked back at the council chamber. We will see you again soon. Back on the human embassy ship, John entered the command center. Screens showed human fleets already moving into new positions across the galaxy. Admiral Susan Clark's face appeared on the main display. "Is it done?" she asked. "It's done, John." "Confirmed. No going back now." Susan nodded. "The Athena protocol is active. All ships are moving to defensive positions around our colonies. Several smaller species have already sent messages asking for talks. Which ones? The Rigelians, the Tausetians, and the Proxima Centauri government. All species who've been denied full council rights." John wasn't surprised. Earth wasn't the only world treated as second class by the ancient council members. Peter Martinez entered the command center. His face showed worry. "Sir, the Zilarians are moving a battle fleet toward New Mars colony." John looked at Admiral Clark. "Susan?" She smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "The USS Defender and 3 battle groups are already there, cloaked. If the Zilarians attack, they'll get a very unpleasant surprise." John sat down heavily in a chair. 50 years of human diplomacy in space had just ended. What would come next would change everything. "We should contact President Dawson," he said. "He'll need to address Earth and the colonies." Susan nodded. "Already arranged. He goes on in 1 hour. The speech is ready. A new path for humanity. It's good, strong." Peter looked between them. "Do you think the Council will try to force us back? They have ships too." John shook his head. "They haven't fought a real war in 2,000 years. They've forgotten how? We haven't." The ship's captain announced they were ready to depart Harmony Point Station, the massive council headquarters that had been John's home for years. He took one last look at it on the screen. "Sir," Peter said quietly, "I've served with you for 10 years. All that work, all those relationships we built, was it all for nothing?" John put a hand on the younger man's shoulder. "No, we learned everything about them, their strengths, their weaknesses, their thinking, and they learned nothing about us. That was their mistake." As the ship pulled away, messages flooded in from Earth colonies. They were celebrating in the streets. For too long, humans had tried to fit into the Council's ancient system. Now they would make their own way. "Admiral," John said, "what's the status of the Zilarian fleet?" Susan checked her data. "Still on course for New Mars. They'll be in range in 6 hours. And our ships? Ready and waiting? The Zilarians think they're attacking a lightly defended colony. They have no idea what's waiting for them." John nodded. "When they attack, show them exactly what humanity can do when pushed too far, but no more than necessary. This isn't about revenge, it's about respect." As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, John thought about the path ahead. Humanity had tried peace, they had tried diplomacy, they had tried playing by the rules. Now they would try something new. The Galactic Council had stood unchanged for 10,000 years. By the time humans were done, it would never be the same again. Captain Elizabeth Warren stood on the bridge of the Earth warship Defiant. The ship hung in space near the edge of the Centauri system, hidden by its advanced cloaking technology. 4 other human ships formed a protective line behind her. They had been watching for 3 days as the Vrax collective ships burned their way through the outer colonies of Centauri. "Any word from the Council yet?" Elizabeth asked her communications officer. Lieutenant Paul Davis shook his head. "Nothing. The Centauri government has sent 16 emergency messages. The Council is still debating a response." Elizabeth clenched her jaw. This was exactly why Earth had left the Council 2 weeks ago. While politicians talked, people died. Her second-in-command, Joe Baker, approached with a datapad. Latest reports. From the surface, the Vrax have hit 3 more settlements. Thousands dead, thousands more taken as slaves, Elizabeth nodded. The Vrax were known for this. They attacked weaker worlds, took what they wanted, and left. The Council had never stopped them because the Vrax were careful to only attack worlds without powerful friends. "Captain," Lieutenant Davis called out. "Incoming message from Admiral Clark, Priority 1. Elizabeth moved to her command chair. The screen lit up with Susan Clark's face. The Admiral looked tired but determined. "Captain Warren, the President has authorized Operation First Light. Your ships are to engage the Vrax fleet immediately. Drive them out of the Centauri system. Elizabeth felt a surge of both relief and tension. Finally, they could act. But this would be the first major human military action without Council approval. Understood, Admiral. Any restrictions on force? Admiral Clark's expression was hard. Minimal civilian casualties, maximum military impact. The Vraks need to learn that things have changed. The Council needs to see what happens when they fail to act. And if Council peacekeepers arrive during the operation? They've had 3 days. We're done waiting. Carry out your orders, Captain. The screen went dark. Elizabeth stood and faced her crew. Battle stations. All ships prepared to decloak on my mark. Target Vraks warships only. We hit hard and fast. The bridge erupted into activity. Weapons were charged. Shields raised. The 5 human ships moved silently into position around the Vraks fleet. All ships report ready, Captain, Joe said. Elizabeth nodded. Send to all ships. Operation first. Light as go, decloak and engage. The Defiant and 4 other ships suddenly appeared in the middle of the Vraks fleet. The alien ships, shaped like sharp black wedges, had no time to react. The first volley from the human ships cut through 3 Vraks destroyers like they were made of paper. The Vraks are scrambling their fighters, the tactical officer reported. They're trying to form a defensive line. Elizabeth watched the battle display. The Vraks had 15 ships left. They were turning to face the human fleet. Press the attack. Don't give them time to organize. The Defiant surged forward, its main guns firing continuously. 2 more Vraks ships exploded. The human fleet moved as one, surrounding the aliens. And firing from all sides. On the main view screen, Elizabeth could see Centauri ships hiding in the shadow of their moon. They had tried to fight the Vraks but were outmatched. Now they watched as the human fleet did what the Council would not. Vraks. Flagship is hailing us, Lieutenant Davis reported. On screen, Elizabeth ordered. The face of a Vraks commander appeared. The alien had gray skin with black markings and eyes that glowed red. Human vessels, you attack us illegally. The Council has not authorized this action. Withdraw or face consequences. Elizabeth leaned forward in her chair. You attacked a peaceful system. You killed thousands of innocent people. There will be no withdrawal. You have 1 chance to leave Centauri space. Any Vraks ship remaining in 5 minutes will be destroyed. The Vraks commander hissed. The Council will hear of this. You have no authority here. The Council had their chance. Now it's our turn. 5 minutes, Commander. Choose wisely. The communication ended. Elizabeth turned to her tactical officer. Status of the Vraks fleet? 7 ships destroyed, 8 damaged but operational. They're regrouping behind the 4th planet. Elizabeth nodded. Keep weapons locked on them. If they move toward any Centauri world, fire immediately. The minutes ticked by. On the bridge of the Defiant, the crew waited tensely. Would the Vraks leave or fight to the end? 4 minutes later, the tactical officer reported, Vraks ships are powering up their engines. They're moving away from Centauri space. A cheer went up from the crew. Elizabeth held up a hand for quiet. Stay alert. This isn't over until they're gone. The Vraks ships, damaged and defeated, limped away from the Centauri system. The human fleet followed at a distance, making sure they left completely. Captain, Lieutenant Davis called. Message from Centauri Prime. Their president wishes to speak with you. The face of President Neela of Centauri appeared on screen. Her silver skin reflected the light, and her eyes were filled with tears. Captain Warren, how can we thank you? You saved thousands of lives today, Elizabeth nodded respectfully. We did what was right, President Neela. The Vraks will not return. You have my word. Neela looked down, then back up with determination. The Council abandoned us. They debated while our people died. Earth acted. We will remember this. After the call ended, Joe Baker approached Elizabeth. Captain, long range. Sensors are picking up Council ships entering the system. Looks like they finally decided to send help. Elizabeth smiled without humor. 6 hours too late. Open a channel to the Council fleet. The commander of the Council peacekeeping force, a tall blue Arcturian, appeared on screen. His expression showed shock at seeing human warships in the system. This is Commander Lorne of the Galactic Council. Human vessels, you are operating without authorization. You will power down weapons and prepare for boarding. Elizabeth stood tall. Commander Lorne, this is Captain Elizabeth Warren of Earth Fleet. The Vrax Collective attacked this system 3 days ago. The Council did nothing. Earth has removed the threat. Your services are no longer required. Lorne's face darkened with anger. You have no authority here. The Council did not approve this action. The Centauri government approved our presence. We are here at their invitation. Are you saying the Council overrules the wishes of a sovereign world? The Arcturian had no immediate answer. Elizabeth continued, If you wish to speak with Centauri leadership, I'm sure they'll be happy to explain how they feel about the Council's delayed response. Hours later, the Council ships withdrew without taking action. They couldn't force the issue without making the Council look even worse. Back on Earth, Admiral Clark received Elizabeth's report with satisfaction. In the President's office, Alan Dawson watched recordings of the battle with John Harris at his side. The Council is in emergency session, John reported. The Zilarians are demanding sanctions against Earth. 7 smaller species have spoken in our defense. President Dawson nodded. And the Centauri? Their representative walked out of the Council chamber in protest. They've requested direct talks. With Earth outside Council channels, Dawson smiled. The cracks are spreading faster than we expected. How many other species have reached out to us? 27 so far. All of them tired of being ignored by the older species. All of them watching what we did today. President Dawson looked at the battle display one more time. Tell Captain Warren she did well, and prepare our diplomatic team. I think it's time we start building something new. New Geneva shone in the morning light as ships from 27 different worlds arrived in Earth orbit. The city had been built specifically for this day, a place where humans and aliens could meet as equals. Admiral Susan Clark stood at the window of the main conference room, watching the shuttles land at the spaceport below. 1 month had passed since Earth left the Galactic Council. 1 month of rapid change across the galaxy. Susan turned as President Alan Dawson entered the room with his security team. He looked tired but excited. This meeting would change the course of galactic politics forever. Are they all here? He asked. Susan nodded. The last shuttle just landed. Representatives from all 27 worlds that responded to our invitation. Some took great risks to come. President Dawson straightened his jacket. Then let's not keep them waiting. They walked together to the grand hall where the visitors had gathered. The room fell silent as they entered. Susan saw a mix of species. Some looked almost human. Others were completely alien. All of them had one thing in common. They had been treated as lesser members by the Galactic Council. President Dawson stepped to the podium. Welcome to Earth. Thank you for coming despite the risks and the distance. Each of you represents a world that has been denied full rights in the Council. Each of you has watched as the older species made decisions that affected your people. Without your input, today that changes. A tall, thin alien with 4 arms raised one hand. This was the representative from Rigel. President Dawson, we appreciate your words. But what exactly are you proposing? Earth is powerful, but the Council has existed for 10,000 years. What can one world do against such history? President Dawson smiled. Not one world. Many worlds standing together. He touched a control on the podium, and a hologram appeared above him showing a map of the galaxy. For the past month, Earth ships have been positioning themselves near the worlds of potential allies. When the Centauri system was attacked, we demonstrated our willingness to act when the Council would not. The representative from Centauri, with her distinctive silver skin, stood up. Earth saved my people when the Council abandoned us. We are here to stand with humans, whatever they propose. Susan watched as other representatives nodded in agreement. The mood in the room was shifting from caution to interest. President Dawson continued, I propose we form a new alliance. Not a replacement for the Council, but an alternative. The Coalition of Free Worlds. Every member would have equal voting. rights regardless of how long their species has been spacefaring. Decisions would be made by majority vote, not by the whims of the oldest members. A blue-skinned alien from Tau Ceti spoke next. The council will see this as a direct challenge to their authority. They will try to stop us. Susan stepped forward. They already tried. Yesterday, the council voted to impose sanctions on Earth and any world that allies with us. 7 council members abstained from that vote. All 7 have representatives in this room today. Murmurs spread through the crowd. President Dawson raised his hands for quiet. We are not asking anyone to make a decision today. Take our proposal back to your governments. Consider it carefully. Earth will continue to act as we have, protecting those who ask for our help, regardless of council approval. After the formal meeting ended, smaller groups formed around the room. Susan found herself speaking with representatives from 3 worlds located near Zilarian space. They were nervous but determined. The Zilarians have taken pieces of our territory for centuries, said the representative from Proxima Centauri. The council always rules in their favor because they are an older species. Would your coalition protect us if we joined? Susan didn't hesitate. Yes, every member would receive the same protection, no exceptions. As the day continued, Susan noticed a human woman moving confidently through the crowd. This was Dr. Julia Foster, Earth's new chief diplomat. Unlike John Harris, who had spent decades trying to work within the council system, Julia was building something entirely new. Susan approached her as she finished speaking with a group of representatives. How's it going? Julia smiled. Better than expected. 20 of the 27 have already indicated they'll join. The others need to consult their governments, but they seem positive. And Harris? Where is our former ambassador? Working with the transition teams? His knowledge of council procedures is invaluable. He knows all their weaknesses, all their pressure points. A commotion at the entrance caught their attention. A council observer had arrived, uninvited. The tall blue alien demanded to speak. With President Dawson, Susan moved quickly to intercept him. Counselor Ziv, this is a private meeting. Ziv looked down at her with cold eyes. Private conspiracies, you mean? The council has voted. Earth and its allies face sanctions if this coalition forms. Susan didn't back down. The council has no authority over Earth anymore, or over any world that chooses to join us. You're making a terrible mistake, Admiral. The council has maintained peace for 10,000 years. What you're doing will lead to chaos. Julia Foster joined them. Not chaos, Counselor. Change. The galaxy is evolving. The council can evolve with it, or it can become irrelevant. Ziv looked around the room at the gathered representatives. Many of you still have worlds in council space. Think carefully about the consequences of your actions today. A small furred alien stepped forward. Are you threatening us, Counselor? Because that would prove exactly why we're here instead of in your chambers. Before Ziv could respond, President Dawson arrived. Counselor, you were not invited to this meeting. We will send the council a full report of our discussions as a courtesy, but you are not welcome here now. Security personnel moved to escort Ziv out. The counselor gave one last cold look at the gathered representatives. You will regret this decision, all of you. After he left, the room was quiet for a moment. Then, one by one, representatives began to step forward, announcing their intention to join the coalition immediately. Without further consultation, by the end of the day, 25 worlds had committed to the new alliance. Only 2 needed more time to consider. That evening, as the alien ships prepared to return to their worlds, Susan stood with President Dawson and Julia Foster in the command center, watching the data coming in from across the galaxy. The Council is moving ships to key locations, Susan reported. They're trying to show force. President Dawson nodded, as expected. Are our fleets in position? Yes, sir. And we've already begun sharing our defense technology with our new allies. The Zilarians won't be able to bully the smaller worlds anymore. Julia looked at the galactic map, now showing the worlds of the new coalition highlighted in green. This is just the beginning. More will join when they see we're serious. President Dawson's face was serious. The Council won't give up their power easily. There will be resistance, possibly even direct conflict. Susan nodded. We're ready. The Defiant. And 3 battle groups are stationed near Coalition space. Captain Warren has orders to respond to any aggression immediately. As if on cue, an urgent message came through. The Zilarian Empire had launched an attack on a Coalition outpost near Tau Ceti. Susan checked the data and then smiled. They took the bait. The outpost has activated its hidden defenses. The Zilarian fleet is trapped. President Dawson watched as the battle unfolded on the screens. Now they learn the consequences of underestimating us. Send the order to Colonel Wright. Implement the surgical strike plan. As Susan relayed the orders, Julia Foster looked at the galaxy map again. The green areas marking Coalition space were already spreading. The old order was crumbling faster than anyone had predicted. This isn't just about humans anymore, she said quietly. It's about every species that wants to be treated as an equal. The Council had their chance. Now it's our turn to lead. Colonel Samantha Wright watched from the bridge of her ship as the Zilarian fleet struggled against the hidden defense grid. The outpost near Tau Ceti had appeared to be an easy target, just a small research station with minimal defenses. The Zilarians had expected a quick victory to show the new coalition how powerless they were against the older species. Instead, they had flown into a carefully laid trap. Status report, Samantha ordered. Her voice calm despite the tension on the bridge. Lieutenant Kevin Young responded quickly. The defense grid has disabled engines on 12 Zilarian ships. Their weapons are still operational, but they can't maneuver. The remaining 8 ships are attempting to retreat, but our barrier field is holding, Samantha nodded. This was going exactly as Admiral Clark had planned. For 3 months, humans had prepared for this moment, knowing the Zilarians would eventually attack. Now, it was time to show the galaxy what happened to those who underestimated Earth and its allies. Open a channel to the Zilarian commander, she ordered. The face of Commander Vex of the Zilarian Empire appeared on screen. His reptilian features were tight with anger, and his normally green scales had darkened to almost black, a sign of rage in his species. Human, he hissed. This was a trap. Samantha kept her face neutral. This was a lesson, Commander Vex. You attacked a coalition outpost without provocation. Did you expect us to do nothing? Vex's eyes narrowed. The coalition is illegal. The Council has not recognized it. You have no authority here. We don't need the Council's permission to defend ourselves. Now, here are your options. You can surrender your ships and withdraw from Coalition space, or we can continue this battle until your fleet is destroyed. The choice is yours, Vex laughed, a harsh sound. You are outnumbered, human. Your little trap has caught us, but you have no ships nearby to finish the job. By the time you bring reinforcements, our main fleet will have arrived. Samantha allowed herself a small smile. Are you certain about that, Commander? She nodded to Lieutenant Young, who pressed a sequence of commands. Around the trapped Zilarian fleet, 20 coalition ships suddenly appeared, dropping their cloaking fields. The look of shock on Commander Vex's face was worth all the planning and patience of the past months. He had not known that humans had shared their cloaking technology with their new allies. As you can see, Samantha continued, we anticipated your attack. These ships represent 5 different coalition worlds. This isn't just about Earth anymore, Commander. This is about all the species you and the Council have bullied for centuries. Before Vex could respond, Lieutenant Young called out, Colonel? We're detecting 3 Zilarian colony worlds going to high alert. They're mobilizing their defense fleets? Samantha nodded. Right on schedule. Lieutenant, signal our ships near those colonies to decloak. Across 3 star systems, coalition ships appeared in orbit around key Zilarian worlds. They had been waiting there, invisible, for weeks. Samantha turned back to the screen where Commander Vex was receiving reports of this new development. His scales had paled to a sickly yellow. As you can now see, Commander, we hold your colony worlds hostage. We could destroy them, but unlike the Zilarians, we don't target civilians. Our ships will only fire on military installations and only if you force us to. Vex's voice was tight with fury. What do you want? The same thing we've always wanted. Recognition, respect, equality. The Zilarian Empire will acknowledge the coalition as a legitimate government. You will withdraw from old disputed territories. You will pay reparations to the human colonies you attacked. The Council will never allow this. Samantha leaned forward. The Council is no longer relevant, Commander. Look at your screens. Count the ships. Those aren't just human vessels. They're from Centauri, Rigel, Tau Ceti, and a dozen other worlds. The galaxy is changing. You can change with it, or you can be left behind. Hours later, Samantha stood in her ready room, watching as Zilarian ships limped away from the battlefield. They had surrendered, facing overwhelming force and precision strikes that had disabled their military bases on 3 colony worlds without a single civilian casualty. It was a victory beyond what anyone in the coalition had expected. Her communications officer called her back to the bridge. Colonel, incoming transmission from Earth. It's Admiral Clark. Susan Clark's face appeared on the main screen. Excellent work, Colonel Wright. The Zilarian surrender is being broadcast across Council space. You've shown the galaxy exactly what the coalition stands for: strength without cruelty, justice without vengeance. Samantha nodded. Thank you, Admiral. The joint fleet performed perfectly. The training programs we established with our allies are proving effective. The President wants you to know that the diplomatic team is already meeting with Zilarian representatives to formalize the terms of surrender. This victory will bring more worlds to our side. After the transmission ended, Samantha's second-in-command, Major Bill Evans, approached with a datapad. Latest reports from across the galaxy, Colonel. The Council is in emergency session. 7 more members have announced their intention to leave and join the coalition. Samantha wasn't surprised. Success attracted all eyes. And Harmony Point Station? Chaos, according to our intelligence officer. The Arcturus Dominion, one of the founding council members, has formally censured the Zilarians for their aggression and opened diplomatic channels with us. The council chamber has devolved into shouting matches. On Harmony Point, the massive space station that had been the seat of the Galactic Council for thousands of years, Security Officer Greg Nichols moved carefully through the crowded corridors. As Earth's chief intelligence officer on the station, he had remained behind when a human delegation left. His job was to watch and report as the council fractured under pressure. Greg paused outside the main council chamber, listening to the angry voices inside. The Zilarian defeat had triggered exactly the response Admiral Clark had predicted. The older species were blaming each other, while the younger ones were openly questioning why they should remain loyal to a system that had failed them. He tapped his hidden communicator. Nichols to Earth Command. The situation here is deteriorating faster than expected. 3 more species are preparing to evacuate the station completely. Not just leaving the council, they're saying the entire system is broken beyond repair. Greg moved away from the chamber as a group of council security officers approached. His cover as a maintenance worker had held so far, but tensions were high and it was getting harder to move freely around the station. In another section of Harmony Point, representatives from a dozen worlds were meeting in secret. Greg had planted listening devices in the room earlier, and now he watched the feed on his small datapad. These were species that had been in the council for centuries, not the newcomers like Earth. If they were discussing leaving, the council was in even more trouble than anyone had realized. Greg recorded everything and transmitted it to Earth in encrypted bursts. This was valuable intelligence that would help the coalition plan its next moves. Back on Earth, President Dawson received Greg's reports with growing satisfaction. In the main conference room of New Geneva, he addressed the expanded coalition. Now representing 34 worlds, the Zilarian surrender marks a turning point. We never wanted conflict, but we were prepared for it. Now the galaxy sees that the coalition isn't just talk, we act to protect our members. Dr. Julia Foster, standing beside him, added, We've received inquiries from 15 more worlds in the past 6 hours. The Council is losing members faster than anyone predicted. John Harris, the former ambassador who had walked out of the council chamber 3 months ago, looked at the galactic map showing coalition territory in green and council space in red. The green was spreading like a wave across the stars. "We never wanted this chaos," he said quietly. "We simply wanted to be treated as equals." President Dawson nodded. "The council's collapse is of their own making, their refusal to evolve. Now we must be ready for what comes next. The old powers won't surrender easily." As if to confirm his words, an urgent message came through from Captain Elizabeth Warren of the Defiant. The Zilarian homeworld had just recalled all its representatives from the council. They were preparing for war. 6 months had passed since humans walked out of the Galactic Council. In that time, the political landscape of the galaxy had changed more than it had in the previous 1,000 years. Admiral Susan Clark stood at the window of her office on Earth, looking at the stars and thinking about how far they had come. A soft chime announced a visitor. Susan turned to see President Alan Dawson enter, followed by Dr. Julia Foster. "The reports from Harmony Point are in," the president said without preamble. "The council has officially shrunk to less than half its original membership. Entire sections of the station have been powered down as species relocate their embassies to New Geneva or return to their homeworlds." Susan nodded. This was expected but still remarkable to hear. "And the Zilarians?" Julia consulted her datapad. "After their failed attempt at war, their empire is in disarray. 3 colony worlds have declared independence and applied to join the coalition. The Zilarian homeworld has a new government that's requesting peace talks. They saw what happened to their fleet," Susan said. "We could have destroyed them completely, but we chose restraint. That sent a powerful message." President Dawson moved to a large display showing a map of the galaxy. Areas in green represented the coalition, now comprising over 60 species. Red showed what remained of council space, shrinking by the week. "We've achieved more than we ever thought possible," he said. "The question now is, what next? The old council is breaking apart. Do we simply replace it with our own version, or do we create something truly different?" Susan had been thinking about this question for weeks. "I believe it's time for a change in leadership. The military phase of our plan is complete. Now we need to build something that lasts." The president looked at her with surprise. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm announcing my retirement from military service today. The coalition needs a security coordinator who can focus on defense rather than warfare. I'd like to take that position if you'll approve it." President Dawson smiled. "I think that's an excellent idea. A gesture that shows we're transitioning from revolution to stability." On what remained of the council, reform movements were gaining momentum. Councillor Ravi of the Altair Systems had proposed restructuring voting rights to resemble the coalition model. The motion failed, but by a narrower margin than anyone expected. The older species were slowly realizing that change was inevitable. John Harris, now serving as an advisor to the coalition leadership, watched a transmission of the council vote with Dr. Foster. They sat in the observation lounge of New Geneva, Earth's diplomatic center that now hosted representatives from 60 different worlds. "They'll adapt or become irrelevant," John observed. "Either way, humanity has changed the galaxy forever." Julia nodded. "I never expected it to happen so quickly. When you walked out of that council chamber 6 months ago, did you imagine we'd be here now?" John looked out at the busy spaceport where ships from dozens of species arrived and departed daily. "I hoped, but no, I didn't think it would be this dramatic. The old council was stagnant for so long, I thought change would take decades." "Humans are impatient," Julia said with a smile. "We don't like to wait for things to improve on their own." Across the galaxy, the coalition fleet conducted its first joint exercises. Ships from dozens of species flew in formation, testing the integrated defense systems that Earth had shared with all members. Captain Elizabeth Warren stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching with pride as alien vessels matched her ship's maneuvers perfectly. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Tim Russell, approached with a message. "Captain, 3 council species have requested permission to observe the exercises." Elizabeth considered this. 6 months ago, these same species had condemned Earth for acting without council approval. Now they wanted to see what they were missing, invite them to participate. Instead, she ordered, "That's the difference between us and the old council. We don't just talk about unity, we demonstrate it." On the Zilarian homeworld, a new government was taking power. After their military defeat at the hands of the coalition, the old war leaders had been removed. The new prime leader, a younger Zilarian named Krell, addressed his people from the steps of the ancient temple. "For too long, we relied on our status as an elder species to dominate others. We believed age gave us the right to take what we wanted. The humans and their coalition have shown us the error of our ways. Strength does not come from age or tradition. It comes from cooperation and mutual respect." His words were broadcast across Zilarian space and beyond. Many in the old council dismissed it as the talk of a defeated enemy, but others listened carefully. The galaxy was changing, and those who failed to change with it would be left behind. In the Coalition Congress on Earth, representatives from 60 worlds gathered to vote on a new charter. Unlike the council, which had operated on the principle that older species deserved more power, the coalition was built on equality. Each world had one vote, regardless of how long they had been spacefaring. President Dawson addressed the Congress, standing before delegates of every shape, size, and color imaginable. 6 months ago, humanity walked away from a system that refused to treat us as equals. We did not do this lightly. We did not do this eagerly. We did it because we believed there was a better way. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of aliens who had once been enemies or strangers but were now allies. A galactic council stood for 10,000 years. In that time, it brought stability to the stars, but at a cost. Progress stopped. Innovation was discouraged. The old ruled the young without question or challenge. That era is over. Susan Clark, wearing the simple gray uniform of the Coalition Security Force rather than her admiral's insignia, stood to one side of the stage. She felt a mix of pride and humility. Humans had started this change, but it now belonged to all. These species on Harmony Point Station. The remaining council members debated what to do about the growing coalition. The oldest species, those who had ruled for millennia, argued for military action to bring the rebels back into line. But their power was waning. More and more of the middle-tier species were listening to Counselor Ravi and his calls for reform. Greg Nichols, still operating as Earth's intelligence officer on the station, reported all of this back to Coalition headquarters. The council was tearing itself apart from within, divided between those who wanted to maintain the old order at any cost and those who saw the need for change. In Earth orbit, a council diplomatic vessel arrived, requesting permission to land. It carried a special envoy from the remaining council leadership, sent to open formal relations with the coalition. After 6 months of hostility, even the oldest species were beginning to accept the new reality. President Dawson met with his advisors to discuss the visit. "They've ignored us, sanctioned us, and threatened us. Now they want to talk. Should we receive them?" John Harris nodded. "We should. We never abandoned diplomacy entirely. We just refused to accept a diplomatic system that treated us as inferiors. If they're ready to speak to us as equals, we should listen." Susan agreed. "We've proven our strength. Now we can show our wisdom." As the council ship descended toward New Geneva, President Dawson prepared to greet the envoy. 6 months ago, humans had walked away from the Galactic Council to create something better. Now the council was coming to them. In his office, preparing his remarks, Dawson thought about how to explain what had happened. The words came to him naturally. "Humans didn't abandon diplomacy, we reinvented it." Sometimes the greatest act of creation begins with the courage to walk away from what isn't working. The galaxy isn't in chaos, it's in transformation.